Hello, and welcome to yet another riveting episode of My Dog Will Eat My Face. I'm going to start today's podcast with a phrase that I had memorized since I was a child. Well, I guess since I was in middle school. Yeah, you're a child in middle school, I guess. And it's something that I have to use for my own sake as of uh, as of late. That phrase would be, "Do not take counsel of your fears," as so once written by General George Smith Patton Jr. himself while he was engaged in, of course, the Great World War II. Do not take counsel of your fears. It's pretty good advice, but it's something that is actually very difficult to follow. And for me, particularly in recent weeks and days, that truth is only redoubled. It is very difficult for me to follow that very sage advice. And I'd like to discuss why that is and try to recenter myself into an unyielding fact that is true now as ever it has once been for thousands of years. What I've been dealing with as of late is obviously physical in nature in the first place, and also lately, on top of that, I've been dealing with rather severe financial issues. Now, I find it really uncouth. Perhaps I'm too much of a traditionalist to whine about finances in any sort of public forum. But if my effort is to be truthful here, that I have to tell it like it is. You see, when I was first put into hospice and was given a very short prognosis, I decided it would be best for me to play the short game. I knew I was going to, one, be on disability in that time period, but I did not steer myself at that time to reduce expenses or to change my game plan too much, but rather to live out these last 6 months or so of my life as best as I can, because my time here on this planet was very limited. Again, that's the short game. So that's what I endeavored to do. When lo and behold, despite every warning my doctors have given me and all their doom and gloom, I still today live, albeit in much worse physical state than I did before. I'm still a living, breathing creature. I still need all the comforts of life, that is, food, oxygen, shelter, love, downtime, entertainment, compassion, all of these great things, while also suffering greatly from a very slow physical decline. And the combination of that has been rather, I don't want to say catastrophic, but it's certainly been at the very least, unwanted, and perhaps at the most catastrophic. I guess that is truly the only word I can think of right now. Because if you're playing for the short game and you live a long time, you end up really uh, cheating yourself out of a happy existence in the long term. And that's sort of where I'm landing now these days. So I have the increased physical ailments of which I spoke of last week. But on top of that, I have to confess, with my dramatically abbreviated income on disability, it's extraordinarily difficult to keep my head above water financially. And I have to somehow navigate things and keep things happening on my own while also feeling physically miserable and knowing full well that any day could very well be my last. Every time I go to bed, I might not wake up. And that has definitely instilled upon me a great deal of fear. Will I be homeless because I've run out of money or something and then die on the streets? I wonder sometimes, literally. How will I afford food? How will I pay my rent? Those are two things that have come up recently for me. Things that I actually didn't really worry about before when I was working. Because, well, I was working. And so I fall back on that old quote from George Patton. Again, do not take counsel of your fears. And I think while it is wise to prepare and to make plans for changes in your environment and what kind of income you have versus what your long term plans are, and having plans and savings and some deferred gratification is wise. Sitting back and pondering your greatest fears while not solving anything is indeed useless. I've said it before in other podcasts, and it's so very true now. And it's so very true now in my current predicament. But even though that sounds great, what Patton said, don't take counsel of your fears. I don't think I even truly understood the background of that until more recently. Why is that good advice? And why does that not mean sticking your head in the sand like an ostrich, pretending nothing is there? And it's actually through these crises of physical combined with financial difficulties that I think a certain skill has been underscored in respect to my abilities or lack thereof, perhaps, things that I fail at doing. Something has been underscored, and I think I better understand what is meant by that phrase by Patton and what truly is meant by it, and how I can use that to better live my days if they are my last, or if they're not my last. And that's what I want to sort of touch on. So, what am I doing that is causing myself great angst and mental strife lately with respect to finances and health? These are probably the two biggest things in the world that people worry about, actually. So I know I'm not alone. I'm in good company. I know that's at least true. But how in the world, when you're facing something like what I am facing, do you not take counsel of your fears? When you're in a situation where you've done all you can't prepare any further. You set forth a certain game plan and pace based upon the best advice of your advisors, in this case, my doctors, and they turned out to be wrong, which is great. I'm still alive, but I'm physically worse off. I still am in a terminal state. And now, on top of that, I'm financially bereft of any security. So I've been spending a lot of time lately worrying and lamenting my current condition. I see all the red flags where, for the first time ever in my life, I was going to come up short to pay rent if I didn't do something that I've never done before, which is taking a personal loan from a friend to get over the hump just to pay my stupid rent. That's never happened to me before. And for it to happen to me now at the end of my life, frankly, it's embarrassing. It is humiliating for me to admit that occurred so late in this game, so late in my life. I made such a stupid mistake of misspending. If I were 16, 18, 22, or something like that, I could understand it. It could be forgiven, live and learn. 45 or 46, I should say. That's just that's just sad. That's how I see it. I'm truly embarrassed. Truly embarrassed. And now I find myself quite often paralyzed with fear and worrying incessantly about what may come of me and what fortune has ahead of me. Or, in this case, what misfortune is waiting for me. And I find it more than ever before, I should say, to not take counsel of my fears. I struggle the most on the weekend with my fears because I can't reach anyone. Businesses are closed. I can't do something about these fears. I can't move money around. I can't talk to a provider about a discount or a deal or a better deal I could get or something. When it's 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, banker's hours, as it will. It's really lousy to be worrying about financial stuff over the weekend. It's like 2 days of torture with which you can do nothing about it during those 2 days. You can't talk to anyone. You can't confirm anything. You can't. I mean, there's some online access. Some businesses are open Saturday, sure, but it's very difficult. So I just spend my weekends stressed to the hilt, worrying about what's going to happen. So today was a day like any other on my weekends where I was doing exactly that. I was stressing out and worrying and doing arithmetic over and over, trying to find ways to cut back expenses, trying to figure out how am I going to survive? What's feasible, what's not feasible, all those sorts of things. And I couldn't do anything about any of it because I was just stuck in the weekend. I couldn't talk to anyone. I couldn't confirm something. I couldn't apply for something. It's very difficult on the weekend to try to remedy those specific fears. Basically, with everything I approach on the weekend, it's It comes down to, well, I'll have to do that on Monday. Every little thing, I'll have to wait till Monday. I'll have to wait till Monday. God forbid, Monday is a holiday, right? Oh, I have to wait till Tuesday. Oh my God. Now I have 3 days of being miserable to feel like I'm not doing anything to remedy this. That is the thing that makes me feel better. I can't do the ostrich thing and stick my head in the sand. That is no good. And so when I can't do anything, I just get caught in a loop of worry and fear. Makes for a lousy weekend. And today, when I was experiencing these very emotions, I did basically a 1-2 punch, so to speak, to try and help to placate my fears and my worry. And I'll try to explain what that 1-2 punch was and how important the second punch of the things I did, or the thing I did, I should say, of how that second punch was so important and is available to everybody. So, let me dive into what I had to do today to try to talk myself off the ledge, so to speak. So, when I say I did a 1-2 punch, I did two things to try to get myself to calm down and not to be freaking out over this stuff. Number one is something that I know is not immediately available to everyone. And I'll be perfectly blunt. I took a chill pill. What I did is I took a prescribed medication I have for anxiety. That's why I have it. I figured, hey, this is exactly the condition in which this is supposed to be used. So I took my medication as directed. And I understand that that's not available to a lot of people. So that's why I say that first one, I'm lucky to have as an option. It's not available to a lot of people, and it's getting less and less and less available to people. And that's unfortunate. Not everyone abuses these things. Some people, like me, use it when you seriously need to face some major existential issues. So that's why I really want to focus on the second punch. That's the second thing I did. I'm sure you know, based on the podcast name, and if you've listened to this podcast at all, I've got a dog. And my dog is also an emotional support animal fully licensed and certified, whatever. He's an ESA. Again, emotional support animal, ESA. And he's very good at it. Uh, he has tremendous empathy. He has more empathy in his little paw than I've encountered in most human beings in their entire lifetime. He feels what I feel. He comes to me when I'm sad. He checks in on me. And he basically just follows my emotional state verbatim, whatever it may be. So I decided to lay down and have a little cuddle time with my dog. And he held me and comforted me. And I swear I could feel the dopamine, I could feel the good hormones being cranked out of my brain. The way he would just gently hold me. And he even would like rest his forehead against mine, almost, oh no, not almost, entirely face to face, trying to give me affection. I've heard from numerous people that they've never seen a dog give as much affection as much as mine does. So I'm very lucky with that too. But he started to do that, and I said to myself, if it weren't for all that other crap, this would be a wonderful moment. And then I realized, wait a minute, there is no other crap. All these things I'm worrying about are things that have not happened. I've not been evicted. I've not run out of food. I've not been homeless. I've not been unable to pay back a loan. I've not maxed out all my credit cards. I realized quickly that everything that was racing through my head were things that had not occurred. And so I was torturing myself through this worry by worrying about things that weren't even real. So I was torturing myself multiple times. God knows how many times before the event happens, and then if it does happen, then again do it. Now, that makes no sense. And I think that's what Patton said by don't take counsel of your fears. And more specifically, I realized the best thing to do is to live in the moment. And for me, that is the hardest thing to do. For a lot of people, it's the hardest thing to do. It's okay to plan, it's okay to have deferred gratification. Those are all fine. But it's not helpful to torture yourself over things that have not yet occurred. And to not have a way to escape those fears and just live in the moment. Because in that moment, when my ESA was holding me and cuddling me, it was a wonderful event, just receiving that kind of affection. So I've realized basically what I've already known, but it's something I really need to pound into my stupid head that I need to live in the moment, or at least give more effort to living in the moment. It's okay to have plans. It's okay for deferred gratification. It's okay to make those calls to these places and try to get better rates or to make a deal or try to get a loan or whatever you got to do. That's all fine. But over the weekend, when you can't do a darn thing with a lot of that, it is asinine to just ruin your weekend because you can't get anyone on the phone. And that's what I was doing. I was torturing myself living through a crisis that may or may not even occur. So, upon telling myself this, I really try to focus on the moment. Here was my dog basically holding me and cuddling me and giving me love and affection unlike any other. And I was home, rent's paid, none of my bills are late, not one. I have nothing due at any company right now in my life. Everything's been paid. I do have debt, of course, but I don't have any payments due. I'm in my home, or I'm locked in with rent. I'm in a safe place, in a secure building. I'm not living in a hovel or on the street. I'm warm. I'm on a comfortable bed. I have a house full of food. And I'm cuddling with my dog. When you look at the moment, that's a pretty darn good life. And that snapshot, that's a great place to be. And so I really focused on where I was at that moment. And well, I fell asleep. Woke up maybe an hour later, maybe 2 hours, and I was holding my dog, and my dog was literally holding me, resting his head on my chest, sleeping. And I downright felt euphoric when I woke up. I felt amazing by focusing on the moment. And I think that is the key to overcoming these issues. These are issues that have been brewing a long time. They're lousy, yes. They're scary, yes. But to stop myself from just imploding on myself emotionally, I have got to learn to live in the moment. And interestingly enough, dogs do that. They are a species that lives in the moment. You could accidentally hurt your dog or I don't know, yell at them, something make them sad, do something they don't like. I don't know. Take any pick. But then, like 5 minutes later, if you're nice and over it and happy again, they'll be the same way back. They live in the moment for the most part. Of course, they have memories and they remember certain things and events, and you don't want to obviously abuse your dog and think nothing will come of it. Oh, something will come of it. And if you do, you're a terrible person, I might add. Sorry, I'm a dog lover. So, anyway, but they really know how to live in the moment. They're not worried about rent or sleep or food or whatever. They're just swinging away, just doing their thing, not a care in the world. And that is, I think, what I need to do to get beyond the self torture, the self English. It is a lousy situation to be in, yes. But that's why it's even more important to when I have those moments of peace, of withdrawal from all these crises, that I cherish them and can give myself some reprieve, some mercy to escape them for a little bit, just to take care of my own well being. So, Patton's quote was great, but another one that came to mind when I was thinking about this and living in the moment was much older. It was by our good friend Marcus Aurelius some 2,000 years ago. He said, "We live only now. Everything else is either past or unknown." We live only now. Everything else is past or unknown. I think that's a better way to put the advice that Patton was explaining in his journal during World War II. He would know a thing or two about being in a crappy situation and having to not worry about every little thing and to not be paralyzed with fear. He never, ever was paralyzed with fear. But I think the way Marcus Aurelius put it, and the way I had that experience today with my emotional support animal, it really pointed me into the direction of how to better care for myself and to stop myself from going crazy dealing with these existential issues. I've got to be able to live in the moment. And when Aurelia says everything in the future is unknown, underscores that worrying is totally useless. You're worrying about things that have not only not happened yet, you have no firm knowledge that they even will happen. Everything in the future is unknown. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Could be something wonderful, could be something terrible, could be just another day in paradise. I don't know. That's just it. You don't know. It's unknown. And to torture yourself and to lament and to corner yourself emotionally because of something that is not known has got to be one of the most foolish things I've ever heard. So, that is something I'm going to have to strive to do a lot more as I face these crises. To live in the moment, so I can at least, in some sense, give my mind and my spirit some reprieve from these existential threats. Doesn't mean ignore them when there's an opportunity to take action. But if things are entirely out of my control, kind of like on the weekend, as I was explaining, can't really do a lot. You can do some things, but not a lot. There's no reason to torture yourself for things that have not yet even occurred and might not even occur. So I think that was my big challenge that I learned today. Challenge for myself, a goal for myself to take shelter from the torrential downpour of existential threats and the comfortable present that I may have available to me. And I've got a perfect guru to show me how to do that. My dog. So, my friends, I think with that, I am going to sew up this week's brief podcast, mainly because teaching oneself to live in the moment is a very high goal. I've got to try to do it, and it will take a lot of practice to get me there because it's so much the antithesis of the way my default mind works and the way even society works, it seems. It is very difficult, but like I said, I've got a good teacher. He's sitting next to me right now. He actually sits next to me literally every single time I do a podcast. My dog's sitting next to me, just chilling. So, being as lofty of a goal that is, I will follow Patton's advice by not taking counsel of my fears, by way of living in the present, because all else is either past or unknown. All we have is now. And I think I'll leave it at that. If you do wish to support the podcast, you can go to Spotify, find the podcast on there, and click on support this podcast. Or go to patreon.com/slash my dog will eat my face and throw a shekel in that way. Or just follow and turn on alert notifications so you're notified of future podcasts. But you've already done, again, the best I could ever ask, which is give me your time and your ear to listen to my rambling. Perhaps as I fight through these issues, some of you can relate to it and find similar solutions in your own lives. Or maybe not. And again, I'm just going to try to live in the moment. It worked today, first shot. It actually did work. Took some medication with it. Didn't take it outside doctor's orders, mind you. I didn't do anything stupid. But all I can do is try. And that's what I'm going to do. So hopefully I'll have more next week. And for now, I must say, до свидания.